That is a curious question.
How does creativity begin in darkness?
I don't know. I mean, like, I could be dreaming or I could be driving, or I could be in the middle of a phone call and something will just pop into my head. That to me is where my thoughts go when you talk about creativity coming out of darkness. Because usually like that kind of stuff is like spontaneous and really not related to what's happening around me sometimes. Like I feel like it's like a daydream effect of like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe I should do something about that or write something about that or whatever, and I can't really describe where that comes from or why it happens when it does. Writer's block is a thing, I guess, where it's like no new ideas. Maybe it's just because you're being paid to come up with ideas that it can get difficult. Whereas if it's like for me, I'm like constantly writing, but I've never been paid to be a writer, at least yet. So I feel like the demand creatively for you to be constantly on, if that's your profession as a writer, is way more difficult probably and stressful to be constantly on. An editor or a director is like you might have an off day, but you're still making things happen in a tangible way in front of you, like, or the footage exists in the computer that you have to find your way through. But as a writer, I think, that could be really challenging. But for me, those things tend to happen in the middle of while I'm doing something else. Like I'm in the middle of editing a scene, and then I've thought about something completely random that I want to make a point to write down because I don't know where that's going to be valuable. It might be valuable in the project, or the next project, or you know what I mean? Because all those ideas, I think, influence the work that I'm either about to do or currently doing as well. So to figure out where it all comes from, though, I don't know. I mean, can you be taught to be creative? Yes, but there's also I think something like you're born with this, or people are born with it, like exceptional. I don't think I'm like the Stephen Hawking of like, in a sense of or like the Spielberg, or I'm just trying to make my way to try to create stories and tell them. But I think that there's some natural talent that I was just gifted with, that and again was cultivated at a young age for me, and that really, I think, has helped contribute to where I am now and hopefully where I continue to go. But where it came from, I mean, is anybody's guess. I think that when you see somebody's work and you're like inspired, like it changes you. Like for me, that's just why. I think that's why we have those reactions, because it's like, where did that even come from? How did they even create that, or think of that, or do it that way, or even making all those collaborations happen? Every single person in like, I mean, I hate to use Lord of the Rings, but it's like when I saw that film, I'm like, yeah, the set design, the music, the directing, the actors, everybody, just this magic moment happened. And that means that creativity existed, and all of them individually first before it came to that moment too. So I just think it's all fascinating. I have no idea how it happens. Sometimes it's just the universe to me.
Is that the film that impacted you the most?
Lord of the Rings? I would say it's definitely up there for sure, yeah.
Not Gattaca?
Not Gattaca in the same sense, no. I think Lord of the Rings is the one that really... Gattaca is a movie that intellectually stimulates me in ways, maybe just because of when I first saw it. But Lord of the Rings is something I'd never seen before. And so that was, I think, why... It showed me the magic of filmmaking in like the biggest and boldest way possible.
What is day one of your writing process like?
Usually I am jotting down random ideas on just a document, and eventually like sort of like highlights of a structure to some extent, like whatever I can come up with. But then I don't know. I mean, it changes depending on what I'm working on, and I think again every script is like slightly different too. Collaborating and with a writing partner is like my preferred way of working as a writer. Just because again, I think that having somebody to bounce ideas off of, critique, tell you that idea is shit, but that made me think of this one, which maybe is better. And then you're like, no, that's shit, but now we're getting somewhere. You know what I mean? Like that part of that process is really fun for me. I know a lot of people prefer to write alone. And yeah, I don't know. It's got to be like an organic process, at least for me right now. I'm still kind of early on in my writing career, I guess, because I've only really written this projects that I've made, which is sort of out of necessity to some extent. But I don't think I'll always do it that way. I might be the guy that gives you an idea as a writer. I might write it myself, or collaborate, or co-write it. I'm not really that needy, I guess, in that part of the process. I just the script is a blueprint for the movie, so I think as a director I'll always be involved, but or I'd like to think I will always be involved, but maybe I'll find the right script immediately and then just like, let's go. I don't know. It's a long way around saying I don't. I mean, it just starts with jotting down ideas, but that's as a writer, it's like that. But even as a director, shooting like plans and all that stuff, it all starts. It's got to start on paper for me. Writing things down is how I remember. For me, like note taking and all that stuff. It all comes back around for me. Like it will stay in my brain if I write it. That's basically what I'm saying. So I might not think about it for 4 years, but it's still probably in there somewhere. I hope.
What is day 7 of your writing process like?
Well, hopefully I've gotten somewhere by that point. But I still think that like half the battle is figuring out kind of what your structure, but what the story is that you're trying to tell. It's, I hope maybe the ending, I don't know. I mean, like writing a script, it can take me like, 3 years to get to the end. It can take me 6 months. It just depends.
For I Am the Bluebird, how long did it take you to finish the script?
Oh, well, I Am the Bluebird, I was in film school at the time. So I think it took as long as I had in the class to get into production. I think it was like 3 months. And that movie was, not ready to be shot, like for sure. But that's something that I've experienced, in particular in the editing. And again, why I think editing has been a path that I've followed since then, out of necessity, but also just because that part of the process is where the movie got crafted. And also we re-released that film as Implanted in 2012. So I Am the Bluebird was the original title, and was also, I think, 20 minutes longer at that point too. And so all of that was, I guess, the long-winded version of saying, yeah, I shot it. I think I spent maybe 4 months on the script, but I think it was never ready to really be shot, and I learned that the hard way. And so I would maybe just say that I can, or at least I'll say I'll never do that again, if I can help it. I don't want to go into a production on something where the script isn't ready, unless of course it's a documentary where you don't have one, which I just did, and that was also very different and interesting too. But
you have a 3-act structure with a documentary in some ways.
Yes, you do.
Yeah,
you definitely have a structure, but again, you're writing it as an editor though in that case, which you have. I mean, you can. We have a lot of archive in Zero Gravity, and there's other ways to kind of enhance that storyline. But in general, it was the story unfolding in front of you is what the movie is, and you only have so much control over that. Whereas if it's a script, you can obviously rewrite a scene and do 100 different ways to get there. So like with Implanted, it was not ready to be shot. With Zero Gravity, it was, there's no, like, we had to start shooting it to make the movie, you know? So it's very two sides of the same coin, but the end result was, you know, is the story going to be compelling? And, you know, of course, you're not going to go on that journey unless you think it is, but you learn a lot along the way for no matter what the project is.